Welcome back. In this video I'll fit the full suspension kit that was sent to me from Maxpeedingrods. This is a WRX GC8 from 1999. I start off by taking the front wheel off, and the WRX is actually designed quite well. It's very easy to remove the old suspension and install something different. So start off, once the wheel's off, first thing to do is remove the bracket that's holding the wheel sensor. So it's just this one bolt here, comes off no problem. And once you do that, the next thing you need to do is remove the bracket that holds that hydraulic hose going to the caliper, as I'm doing here. Now, unfortunately, WRX or Subaru didn't put a slit in that bracket, so you can't get the hose out. So what you need to do is remove it from the caliper itself and then pull it through the hole. And then what I do is, once it's free of the bracket, actually bolt it back onto the caliper, mainly just to stop hydraulic fluid going everywhere. So I just put that back in, and they're pretty much the only two connections you need to worry about that are accessories, if you like. The next thing to do is to remove the two main bolts. So these are 19mm. Remove the top one, and same at the bottom. Now there's a little bit of tension on this suspension, but not a massive amount. I mean, you could use a spring compressor, but I didn't really bother. And you'll see here it just does come out a little bit. Now once I remove that bottom bolt, I do it with a pin punch. So as it pushes the bolt out, the pin punch itself actually stays in the hole. And then once those two bolts are out, all that's left to do is to remove the three nuts holding the top tower. So I do that here, and once they're out, it simply take that hydraulic fuel line off just to make a bit more room, and it just lifts straight out. So there it is there. Again, put the hydraulics back on just to stop it leaking. I'll put a jack under the disc as well just to sort of hold it into a better position. And first look at the new suspension, you can see it just looks tiny, but you have to remember that this has been that bottom bracket's been screwed up to support the smaller shipping container. So what I first do is I undo the lock nut, and you can see there how far it's screwed up. So undo the lock nut, I completely unscrew that bracket just so that I can measure how much thread I actually get on it. So once it's off, I then measure it up, and I've allowed as a starting point 40mm of thread, which I think's sufficient to start with. So I just do 40mm, put the nut there, and then screw that bottom bracket back on, and at least then I know that there's a reasonable amount of thread. So these are the two bolts. Now this top bolt has like a little cam on it, and this is for fine-tuning the camber angle. And unfortunately, there's one thing with this kit is that the top bolt just doesn't fit on this bracket. So it's not a big deal. You could file it. I just put a die grinder just on one side and to fix that up. Once I do that, remove the nuts for the tower and simply just lift it in, and goes in real easy. Now there is a left and right, and you can't really get this wrong, because if you do put it in the wrong side, that camber adjustment just won't be at right angles to the side of the car, so it'll be on a bit of an angle and you'll tell straight away. So that's in, plenty of adjustment there. Put the wheel sensor cable back on, and there's a bracket for that, no problem. The only thing I notice is once I do these two bolts up, the bracket that holds the hydraulic brake line is not supplied with this kit, and you've got to improvise. So what I've done, this is the original one, there's two spot welds, so I drill through one of the spot welds, and I'm going to utilize that not only to break the spot weld, but to create the bolt hole for the transplant to the new suspension. So just knock it around, get it off. Doesn't take much, this is quite a small job. Straighten it up a little bit, it's got the hole, as I said, so I drilled that hole because that's going to be the bolt hole now for the new suspension. And you can see here there's a bracket. There's already a nut on the other side. It's pretty easy. Just screw it back in, and this way it's an original bracket. Now, once I had this on, the only other thing I had to do was just change that angle a little bit because that was leaning a bit too far forward. So I'll probably move it, 20 degrees, I suppose, 15 or 20. It's only mild steel and it moves no problem. Once in the right spot, feed the brake line through again, hook it up to the caliper, and you don't need to over tighten that nut on the caliper, or be careful not to. And then once you get that far, it's just a matter of putting the little clip back on to hold the brake line, and that is essentially one wheel already done. So very easy, I think. Just a couple of minor tweaks with the kit, and just give it a quick turn. Everything looks fine. Now, I didn't video the whole install of the back because it's a direct fit. There's really no problem with it at all. And you can just see on the front here, there's 105 mil between those two nuts in the end as my starting point. And once I lowered the car, that adjustment with the bottom bracket in by about 40 millimeters, as you saw before, the car sits perhaps slightly higher than standard. So there's stacks of adjustment. I'll deal with that later. Now the spring does look smaller, but you've got to remember it's much more closely wound, and it's a very tough spring. So this is going to be quite a firm ride, I think. So as I said, I'll do the back. The back's pretty much the same. 2 bolts, 3 tower bolts. You do need to remove the back seat and the rear parcel shelf to get to the bolts. And here it is installed. That brake line, as you can see, has got a slit in it, so that just fits. There's no modification whatsoever on this. It all goes in there very easy. Probably took me around half an hour, and that was done. I'll just show you inside the car, so just get an idea. This is behind the back seat, parcel shelf removed. They can be a little bit awkward. It can help to remove that one bolt holding the seatbelt bracket there. So I put this down, and this is pretty much it. So I'd say, overall, I think this kit is well built. There's those couple of little things that you need to tweak to get it to fit. Definitely would recommend it. I don't think you're going to do better than this for price. And again, you can just have a look at the final install at the front once more. Now, the link is in the description. There's 15% discount for any item using the Mezzmo coupon. I would suggest giving these a go if you have a WRX or something similar. And overall, pretty simple. Stay tuned.